Howdy, howdy, friends and neighbors. It's your old pal B coming to you live from the jungles deep in the heart of Borneo. And today we're bringing you another Jungle Rantz. And this one is fueled by a generous grant from our friends at Bali High. Bali High is, how should I put this? Bali High is the finest Indonesian brew that you can have. There it is, right there. Bali High. If you're ever finding yourself stuck in Indonesia during a pandemic, you will want to have a good supply of Bali High. And that even rhymes. Isn't that wonderful? And today we have the topic is TEOTWAWKI. And for those who don't know, TEOTWAWKI is a Navajo word meaning more or less the same thing as the Hopi word, Koyaanisqatsi. Koyaanisqatsi means life out of balance, and TEOTWAWKI means life in the balance. So it's kind of similar, but not quite. It's a slightly different point of view. But obviously, we're broadcasting the end of the world as we know it live from Jakarta. And joining us today, we have a good friend here. Let me bring him up. And his nom de guerre is, there we go. His nom de guerre is Spud Jacket. And Spud, how are you doing?
I'm great. And taking a leaf out of your own book, or you started on the source.
Absolutely.
It's Saturday.
Let us pause for a moment to remember the old world as we once knew it, and get ready for the world as we're about to know it. Amen. So,
amen to that. Yes.
So, how are things?
TEOTWAWKI is actually a proper word. It's a word in one of the native Indian languages.
No. No, I had to make something up just to fill time.
Because
it does sound like...
I thought it was Cree, not Hopi.
Well, the Hopi word is Koyaanisqatsi, which does mean life out of balance. And it sounds a lot like TEOTWAWKI, so I just said, well, you know, that could be Navajo, because they live adjoining reservations, you know.
All right, yeah.
So good enough.
TEOTWAWKI. Can you monitor how many people are joining?
I can take a look. We're probably not going to get... Well, the problem, of course, is that most of the world is about 8 to 16 hours behind us. And so if they're anywhere near sane, they're probably sleeping right now. But we do have 3 people watching, so
wow,
that's not bad. That's not bad. It'll pick up as we go along.
Okay.
There are people who have been requesting more jungle rants, so I'm holding them to it. They better show up.
Is the audience mostly from Jakarta?
Really from all over the place. We get... Okay, wait a minute. Okay, sorry, I popped into the window and I was watching our own feed, so I was hearing myself twice, and that was making me crazy. But
you mentioned my nom de guerre, Spud Jacket. My sister has a lot of dogs, and they all have such wonderful names. She's got Jack Russell's, Spud, and Jacket. She's got this incredible lurcher, and you know they've got these really long legs. They're like greyhounds, And when he sleeps, he sort of folds up. His name is Deck Chair.
Dexter.
Deck Chair. And there's
What
Nicholas, Arthur.
is there a line of reasoning behind that, or is she just doing this for
You know deck chairs,
fun?
those wooden things with the canvas in.
Oh, sure, yeah.
They fold. So his legs are so long and they sort of fold up. It resembles a deck chair.
I got it. I thought maybe it
Spiral
was.
jacket, no idea. One of her.
I thought maybe it was a reference to the last thing they did on the Titanic. Amen. Well, let's see. We don't have any comments yet. You should be able to see comments as they come up. So if something pops up that looks interesting to you,
on the right hand side. Well, we should have a topic to talk about. Is the end of the world nigh?
The end of the world is nigh. But nigh to what is always the question.
The paper this morning had a piece about, well, it's an ex-KGB, a Russian guy who worked in America as a journalist, but he was still KGB at the time. This is like 40 years ago. And he claims that the Russians have been grooming Donald Trump over the last 40 years, which is why they, allowed him to build his Trump Tower or his Grand Hyatt or whatever it was in Moscow.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I was figuring because I don't know if you're familiar with the McCarthy era. McCarthy's right-hand man was a guy named Roy Cohn, who was a real piece of work. One of these bulldog lawyers that was a rabid anti-communist. And Roy Cohn was I guess you can say Trump was a protege of Roy Cohn.
Really?
And Cohn put him in touch with all the mafia, the mobsters in New York. And Trump Tower was built at the time. They were having a Teamster strike, and the Teamsters run pretty much everything in New York. So Roy Cohn introduced him to the head of the Teamsters, and magically all the cement that he needed to build Trump Tower began to show up in the middle of a strike. So to say that Trump owes a favor to Roy Cohn and might actually be rabidly anti-communist because of Roy would be, I'd say, a fair statement.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Trump is a complex individual. Did you know his uncle was I don't know if he's still alive, a famous physicist, nuclear physicist. Yeah,
I did not know
John Trump.
Donald Trump is a complicated man. But I think he's been clinically diagnosed as insane. The definition included 4 criteria. I can't remember all of them, but one of them was narcissistic, which clearly that ticks the box there, doesn't he? Egotistical, pathological liar, and something else. But even before he rose to the presidency, Christopher Hitchens was asked what he thought of Donald Trump, and he said, well, he's got some skill, he's got some talent. He's managed to cover 90% of his head with only 30% of his hair.
But it's real.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, I mean, he's dared people to come up and pull on it, so it must be glued on pretty well.
Whether you like the man or not, hats off. He's got incredible stamina for a man of 75 years old. He did like 4 rallies in a day. He's running around the country and delivering those rallies. It's extraordinary. 75. I mean, it's the new 60, isn't it? Joe Biden's no spring chicken.
No, he's 78. He's 3 or 4 years ahead of Trump.
How old was Reagan when he?
Reagan finished office at 78, so he was Biden's age when he got out.
Oh, okay. Have you seen the comment here? Koyana was a great film shot in IMAX. Did you post that?
Not me. Oh, is that a
I
comment
thought,
on?
yeah, I thought it
Yeah,
was
it
shot.
was.
I thought it was shot in New Mexico.
Actually, it's a very interesting. And the guy who directed that film was a former monk, and the entire film is nothing but Philip Glass music and time lapse photography of various cityscapes, all kinds of different views of cities. It starts out with this gorgeous natural vistas and clouds and everything, and then it goes completely nuts, and then it ends with rockets blowing up, and then the whole thing just kind of crashes and burns. The
Nice.
the soundtrack is one of my favorites. It's one of the ones I've most enjoyed of any film. Philip Glass is a very interesting composer.
Right. I'm
Um,
not really familiar.
he did a great opera called Representative from Planet. Was it Planet 9 or Planet B? Planet 8. I forget now. A representative from Planet something. Maybe somebody in the comments can tell us. But he did a great opera, and most of his music is done in like 16ths and 30 seconds, so that it's just constant scales going up and down. Most of it in the which one does he use?
Is it synthesized?
What is it?
Synthesized.
Actually, most of it's pretty much.
Was he using real instruments?
Yeah, it's real orchestras.
Oh, okay.
And I've seen some of his stuff perform. I saw the opera, and I wish I could remember. It was Representative from Planet 9, I think, or Planet B. Very strange opera, but the music is what mesmerizing, because when you're doing 16ths and 30 seconds, it's just a constant and you just kind of get lost in it.
Okay. I'm not really. I like music as much as the next man, but the composers of film scores or tracks to films, not so familiar. I do know Marconi, was it? Enrico Marconi, who did the wonderful music to that film with Jeremy Irons, the one where they go to South America and murder all the native Indians down there.
Yeah, give me a second.
The Missionary? No.
Was it Missionary? That might be it. Yeah, it was a great flick, though. One of my favorite cinematography films. When you want to see beautiful, beautiful pictures, that's one of them. He and who's the other guy? See, now
This
you can
must
tell
make
I'm
really,
almost 60.
well, hang on. This must make really weird listening. You know that guy,
Yeah.
and the name of the movie was but actually, when we were sitting in the staff room one day, Marek and Michael, these two guys, Michael had studied film animation at college, and Marek's a film buff, and it was unbelievable. They'd say, "You know that film? You remember that film? Which one? The one with that director." And he would go, "No, you mean David Lean?" Yeah, yes. It's like, fuck,
How the hell did you figure that out?
it's just like incredible.
Well, that's like the classic joke about the guy that walks into a bar, and as he's sitting there, he hears people around the room yell out a number, and everybody starts laughing. And he can't figure out what's going on, so he asks the guy next to him, what's the deal when somebody yells out a number and everybody starts laughing? He said, "Oh, we've all been coming here for decades, and we know all the jokes, so we just have numbers for them now. So, people just tell the number instead of the joke. You save a lot of time." So the guy feels a little emboldened after a couple of bally highs, and he yells out 16, and the whole place goes dead silent. And he says, "What did I do wrong?" And the guy looks at him and says, "Man, you can't tell a joke, can you?"
Yeah, nice one. Um, Plato and a platypus walk into a bar. Have you read it?
No.
It was a New York bestseller for a long time, written by two New York Jewish philosopher graduates, and they explain philosophy through jokes. It's a wonderful book, actually. And every unit takes some aspect of philosophy, logic, um, Episcopalian metaphysics and existentialism and so on. And then they explain it through jokes. But each chapter is introduced by two Greek guys who are sitting down, drinking their ouzo, getting steadily sloshed. And their comments are so funny. Dimitri and Tasso, their names are. And he explains the origins of the Earth using the Chinese explanation that it's a turtle sitting on the back of a turtle. Oh, well, what's he riding? Well, he's on the back of another. It's turtles all the way down, Dimitri. I don't know if to say.
Yes.
I mean, you've got to face it. Christianity, I mean, Judaism does have the best life origin story, doesn't it? Although the Aborigines is quite a nice one too.
The one I like is the Mayans have one where in the beginning the earth and the sky were one, and then the great being drew a line across it and created the horizon and separated the sky from the land. And it goes on. It's a long story, but it's really cool. The imagery is very interesting.
I can't remember the Aborigine creation story, but it's gods fighting in the sky, obviously, and bits of flesh from one wounded god drop to earth and become kangaroos.
That's what the director, the guy that did the film Prometheus and Alien. Not Carpenter.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you here, but I did a lesson with some students recently. It was ostensibly to practice the passive voice. And so I looked up on Google the 10 most common conspiracy theories, because of course they're all expressed in the passive. Kennedy was assassinated by the CIA. Princess Diana was murdered by the British Secret Intelligence, and so on. But in the top 10 most believed conspiracy theories was something I don't even understand what it means, that the Earth is controlled by reptilians.
Well, that's one of your fellow countrymen, David Icke.
Really?
Came up with the reptilian thing. And it's very curious. A lot of people claim that in moments of when certain world leaders are being candid in a moment, their eyes turn black and you can kind of see through their disguise. The Bush family apparently does this. Huh?
What does he mean by reptilians? I mean, I know Donald Trump looks like a toad, but
well, he's not a reptilian because he's not part of the gang. He's outside of that.
I mean, are they alien reptilians, or are they sort of like?
Yeah, as I understand it, there's there's a kind of federation of about 12 different alien species, and the reptilians are one, and they call them not the Norwegians, but the Scandinavians. They're like really tall, slim, blonde-haired.
Watching too much Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the interesting thing is a lot of these, for lack of a better term, I guess, like urban legends have developed after certain movies like Star Wars, and all of a sudden there's this federation of alien species, Pleiadians, and who else? I mean, there's all these different.
There's a very strong correlation between in the past, how people would think they had been possessed by a demon or a devil, and you'd have the old exorcism performed. And as people sort of slowly debunk religion, and become more science oriented, it's been replaced now with the alien abduction thing. People swearing, and it's incredible. I've seen people interviewed. They're not lying. They're not lying. They genuinely believe they've been abducted by aliens. It's bizarre. I mean, obviously they haven't. But,
I've known many people like that they'll show you their scars. I have an implant here, or the instruments they were using on me. Huh?
What's going on there, though? What's the explanation, the rational explanation?
Well, I think in a sense you're very close. As religion has declined and science has advanced, people still need a belief system. And when they do, they have invented now this this entire universe of alien beings without any physical evidence. But then that never stopped religion. So,
in the Middle Ages, when people used to go around Europe hawking little splinters of the cross.
Yeah.
He said, well, if every single purchase was correct, that cross must have been about 300 meters wide.
Yeah, the tree of the world, basically. Yeah.
That lovely scene from The Life of Brian. Crucifixion. First on the left. One cross each.
Oh, what a brilliant film that was.
One cross each. Yeah.
In fact, I've even held in my hand a little, what do they call them?
Relic. No.
Relic. Thank you. They're a relic, and it was literally two splinters crossed under a piece of acrylic, and of course this was two splinters of the true cross. And the story behind that is Saint Helen had a dream, and she went to Jerusalem. The dream told her where she could find the true cross. And so she went there and hired a couple of diggers, and they went out and started digging a hole. And when they found a piece of wood, she said, there it is, the true cross.
Yeah.
Seriously, that is the story behind the true cross.
I mean, it's like, I've had a dream that there's this rock. Now let's start digging here. Oh, and you find a rock. Whoa, I told you I was true. Yeah.
Could have been a root. Could have been, anything. Foundation of a house. Who knows?
Could have been a cross. I mean, there's nothing unique about crucifixion. It was the routine way that Romans disposed of criminals and miscreants. They were performing 50 crucifixions a week. There's nothing.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a normal punishment.
Well, I mean, that's why they had that place called Golgotha. That's the place of the skull. That was the execution point. And what's really scary about crucifixion is you don't die from being crucified. You die from asphyxiation.
Is that right?
It's a long, slow death. What happens is you're done up so that all the weight is on your abdomen. So after a while, it becomes so laborious trying to breathe that your muscles just give out and you literally asphyxiate. But it takes a week or so. It takes quite a while.
Damn. The Greeks cannot be surpassed in their creativity of punishments. We all know, of course, Prometheus, who had his liver pecked out and it grew back every day to be pecked out the following day. Tantalus. Who was the guy who had to push up the stone up the hill? Sisyphus?
Sisyphus, yeah.
Yeah. Push the stone and he gets just to the top of the hill and then it rolls back down again. Sorry, start again. Fucking hell. Sisyphus.
Yeah, Sisyphus, yeah. That's a great one if you have a lisp. Sisyphus.
It sounds like syphilis.
Syphilis, yeah. Yeah, could be.
I've been trying to teach my students to swear in a slightly more sort of erudite way than the routine F off. Worthless piece of flotsam. I've got all my students calling each other worthless pieces of flotsam. Yeah.
Well, that'll get you up your jetsam right there.
Yeah. So how long does this jungle rants go on for? Can we
just an hour.
Oh, only an hour.
Yeah, I don't want to tax people too much.
Well, you haven't taxed anybody by the looks of it.
Oh, it's not that bad. We got 6 people. Hello, people. But then it in the U.S. is what? Is it what?
Can people join the conversation?
They can't come in, but they can comment. They can do live comments.
Oh, go on. Someone send a comment. Ask a question.
We got the one about Koyaanisqatsi. Obviously, somebody who's a film buff.
Well, yeah, indeed. Bernard and I can talk on any subject forever.
Forever. And have on frequent occasions.
Yeah.
Thanks to Bali High.
Indeed, yes.
But having to do with TEOTWAWKI, the end of the world as we know it, have you been keeping up with the GameStop thing?
I know they just lifted the ban on Robinhood today, and the prices rocketed again. I don't know what's going on. I don't begin to understand this kind of market manipulation. I don't know what you're going to call it.
Well, what's interesting is of course, all the insiders are screaming bloody murder and, this ought to be illegal or something. But what they're doing is they're trying to keep people from looking at the fact that they had naked shorts, which, if you're unfamiliar with the trading term, naked shorts are where a short is where you borrow shares from somebody and then trade them and then keep the difference as your profit and give the shares back. But what a naked short is when you short more shares than actually exist. And
Right.
Apparently in GameStop, this one hedge fund had naked shorted. They had 120% shorted. 120%. So 20% over.
Lose a lot of money.
Yeah, billions. And so they got caught by their own illegal, because naked shorting is illegal. Shorting ought to be. It's immoral, if nothing else. But naked shorts are illegal. They are against the U.S. law. But
so what is GameStop?
Are you familiar with like Blockbuster? A place it used to be, storefront. You could go in, rent videos, that kind of thing. It was the same idea, only for video games, and it was really popular back in the 80s and 90s.
When we had the VHS, internet, that kind of stuff, yeah.
Yeah, but in this case, it was CDs, but it was like for PlayStation or Nintendo, and you could rent games, and then you bring them back in a week or so. So it's the same idea as renting videos, but it is obviously well past its prime.
Yeah, so why were the shares rising in the first place?
They weren't. They were going down, and that's why this hedge fund had shorted them, basically betting that the shares would go down. So they borrowed them at this price, then would sell them at this price, and then the difference they would pocket and give the shares back to the person they borrowed them from.
But the prices rose, and they're rising today. There's this group called Robinhood, which I think is a sort of like anti-Wall Street group, if I'm not mistaken, aren't they?
Well, now Robinhood is a trading app.
Yes,
it's something
right,
you put on your smartphone, and then you can use it for trading stocks. That's part 2 of the story. Part 1 was this group in Reddit called give me a second, Wall Street Bets, and they had a couple of 100,000 members in this subreddit, And they all got together, pooled their resources. Some of them even took parts of the COVID benefit that they had received.
Oh,
Which
like the politicians.
the irony is just not lost on me. And they pulled their resources and started buying all the stock from GameStop and ran it up from, I think it was like $5 a share up to, the last I heard was $300 or $400 a share. It may be much more than that. And created what's called a short squeeze. They forced the hedge fund to have to cover their losses or cover their bets. And as a consequence, they had shorted 120%. So they don't even have the shares to cover what they've borrowed. So they're in deep doo-doo. And the fun part is that the new Secretary of the Treasury, Janet Yellen, is deep involved with this hedge fund.
Is she?
Elizabeth Warren, who is one of the presidential candidates and well-known as Pocahontas, because she had 1/1000th of a percent of Indian blood. But she's all upset because she and her husband, I think, are well invested into this whole thing.
I have a buddy.
So they're losing their shirts.
He's into the stock market, and he bought shares 5 months ago in BRI, the Indonesian bank, and they merged with another bank, and their share price has rocketed from 100 rupiah per share to 3,000 rupiah per share. So he's lucked out, and he also has 1.5 bitcoins, and that's a crazy ride. The Bitcoin, it rockets, it goes up, it collapses, it goes up. Honestly, Bernard, really, economics is the one thing I do not pretend to understand.
Well, in its simplest form is very easy. I create something, or I provide a service.
But Wall Street brokers don't create anything. They just, I don't know.
Well, and the thing that really gets me fired up is that everybody says, oh, see, this is capitalism. And it isn't. It is not capitalism. It's called mercantilism, where the middleman is the one that has all the power. The financiers are the ones that have all the power, not the people that produce things and not the people that are laborers.
There's a comedian in England, sorry to interrupt, but he called Ben Elton. Are you familiar with Ben Elton? And he does a marvelous skit where he's doing the city broker, and the pound has gone up due to investor confidence. He said, what's all this about confidence? You and I, we can't play this confidence game. You can't go into a bar and say, I'll have a bucket of barley high. Here's 10,000 and I want 5, because I'm feeling confident.
Yeah. I'm confident I'll be able to pay you at the end of the day. Well, of course, if you look at a U.S. dollar bill, it says backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government. And so the whole thing is all faith and belief.
Absolutely.
And, there's nothing tangible at all about all this stuff. It's just.
This is where the word credit.
Yeah.
Credo. It's Latin
credit.
for believe. So I believe.
Give me some credit.
Incredible. I read Hariri's books, Homo sapiens, Homo Deus, and what was the third one called? I forget. I mean, absolutely fantastic. He's a Jewish scholar, now to Oxford, but now in Jerusalem. And he does this wonderful, simple explanation about credit and how it's the faith, like you said, the belief in the system. So this woman, let's call her Mrs. Baker, wants to start a business. She goes to the bank and says, can I borrow $1 million? Now, Mr. Builder has just completed a contract and has deposited his profit, $1 million, in the bank. So when Mrs. Baker says, can I borrow this money? They say, sure. The bank lends her the $1 million. She then employs Mr. Builder to build the premises, and the million is not enough. Mr. Baker, Mr. Builder, deposits that million in the bank, and Mrs. Baker says, "Can I have another million?" They say yes. So they lend Mrs. Baker. Now, at this point, Mr. Builder's theoretically got 2 million in the bank. The bank hasn't got anything. And you're allowed to do this apparently up to 8 times. It's like credit asset ratio. I don't know that, but it very beautifully illustrated how this whole system of credit undermines the whole system.
Well, the whole thing with the 2008 financial crisis was the derivatives, and this is where they were taking mortgages, subprime mortgages, and blending them with good mortgages and tranches, and then selling these as high quality financial instruments. And of course, when the subprime mortgages all collapsed, then I think it's somewhere, I've seen estimates up to like $54 trillion in derivatives that cannot possibly be unwound. I don't care what anybody says. From 2008 until now, they have not fixed that situation. All they've done is hide the sausage. You know, they've put it away somewhere.
Yeah.
And the thing, the global economy is based really on nothing. It's based on nothing. Gold has been used for 6,000 years as a store of wealth, but I've seen estimates that now it's hypothecated 6 times over the actual physical amount of gold on Earth.
Right. Yeah.
So it's, yeah, the idea is like I have an ounce of gold and you want to borrow the value of that ounce of gold. So I lend it to you. And then some other guy comes in, wants to borrow the same amount, and I lend it to him on the assumption that neither one of them is ever going to want that ounce of gold.
Well, that's right. I mean, you mentioned gold, but I mean, it's the same thing with paper money, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I give you a piece of paper and you give me a pair of shoes. I think I'm winning, really, but it's only that everybody believes that this paper is worth the price of a pair of shoes or whatever. You know, as soon as that fractures or crumbles, it's a very fragile, very delicate thing. Hey, Bernard, let's change the subject because our 6 listeners might not be able to relate to this. Super Bowl.
Super Bowl, yeah.
Tom Brady in his 10th Super Bowl final.
10th, can you imagine?
43 years old. It is pretty extraordinary.
Well, I mean, of course, in the days when I actually cared about football, there were people like Dick Butkus and Dan Pastorini, and I mean, they're all.
That's pre-war, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. Well, it's been a while since I cared about football.
Really?
But
it's only recently that I've gotten into football, actually.
You're getting into it, huh?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, in England, it sort of began to be screened, I suppose, in the middle of the 80s.
Yeah.
At a time when Joe Montana was leading, who was it, the Redskins or the 49ers or something. And it was, I mean, I played rugby, and so it's quite a physical sport. I can't watch an entire game live because there's just nothing happening. There's too much of changing teams and timeouts. But if you watch the extended highlight show, 20 minutes, it's great. I mean, you just get 20 minutes of nonstop action, so it's quite fun.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who's in the final next weekend?
I have no idea. I saw something about Tom Brady the other day, and that is as much as I know.
Yeah.
Other than the game is in February, right?
Yes. Yeah,
You're a Limey, and you know more about it than I do.
Do you know where I know the word Limey from? It's from the James Bond novels.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Bond had a colleague in the America, I suppose, in the CIA, and he would always refer to the Brits as
Felix?
Limey. Felix, was it Felix? I think it was, yeah.
Felix Leiter, yeah.
That's right, yeah. You kind of, there's literature that's kind of nice for teenagers, Agatha Christie and James Bond. I read Casino Royale recently, and it's just like, it's not really that good, you know. But
the movies, even the newer movies, are much better than any of the books, as far as I'm concerned.
The other way around, that the book is vastly superior to the movie, but occasionally, The Life of Pi. Did you ever read the book or see the movie?
Life of Pi, yes. I didn't read the book, but I did see the movie. Yeah.
I mean, people, if they like a movie, will often watch the movie several times, but people don't usually read books over and over again because you don't have that much time. I read The Life of Pi, finished it, burst into tears, went back to page one and read it straight through again. And I was impressed with the movie. It's by the guy who did the Hulk. That director, what's his name? Chinese guy.
Ang Lee.
That's it, yeah. Because it's not easy to imagine how to make a 2-hour movie about a guy on a boat with a tiger. And the tiger's name was Richard Parker. My sister would be proud. Brilliant stuff. Hey, Bernard, look, just entertain your audience of 3 while I go and pick up myself another wet.
All right, then. So let's see. End of the world as we know it. Here's what we have coming up. As of the spring equinox, which is March 22nd, at 12 noon Greenwich Mean Time, Zulu time, UTC, we will officially enter the age of Aquarius. So for the first time in 2,100 years, we will enter a new age. So that's one. It will be the year of the ox, which is actually my birth sign, lunar birth sign. And it's also my second Saturn. So 60 years is two orbits of Saturn. So I'm in my second Saturn. What else do we have? We have let's see, age of Aquarius, year of the ox, 2 Saturns. There are a number of signs in the heavens that this is it, where we are at the end of the world as we know it. Whatever happens in the U.S., the bet is that Biden's not going to last through an entire term, whether it's health issues or political issues or whatever happens. We certainly know that Kamala Harris will not allow him to live out the term because she's determined to become the first female president, and she will kill Biden to get there.
What happens? I mean, yeah.
What is it?
No, of course. I mean, yeah. It's. I answered my own question. If something happens to Biden, it's automatic, isn't it? The vice president assumes the office.
Yeah. That's. I don't know if I'm more worried about Biden or Kamala. Probably Kamala.
I'm not worried about either of them. Honestly, I know you're Texan and Republican leaning, but I think I think anybody would have been better than Trump. I think he was an absolute disaster.
I'm torn because, I mean, for the first time in my lifetime, we had a president that started no new wars and actually began drawing troops down from overseas. So I got to like that. He did get tax cuts. He decided that the United States needed sovereignty and borders. And anybody that pokes a stick in the eye of China can't be all that bad.
It's the way he did it, though.
Well, I'm not talking about quality. I'm talking about quantity. I mean, he has his points.
You see, the thing is, for me, it's like the West, Europe, America, Australia. I think of all of these as Western nations. I always thought we had the moral high ground, and I thought that counted for something. We can
it
always
used
point the
to.
finger at China and say, "Look at your human rights records and so on," and and the fact that we shared technology, and sometimes, of course, it was stolen, but I like this idea that we can all prosper. It doesn't have to be put America first, make America great. I think, if an alien came down to
Mm.
Earth and was charged with the job of distributing resources according to, where they were and the population, the world would be completely changed because the distribution of wealth is not equitable, is it? And you saw last week Elon Musk became the richest man in the world.
Well, the richest man publicly in the world.
He's worth a little bit more than Indonesia. The Bank of Indonesia.
That I believe.
The Bank of Indonesia currently has reserves of 139 billion. Indonesia's economy has been performing quite well. Elon Musk is worth 180. It's incredible. How can an individual be richer than an entire nation, especially the size of Indonesia? It's insane.
Well, and at some time, probably before you and I are history, we'll probably see somebody hit $1 trillion. There's speculation that the Rothschild family together is worth about $1 trillion.
Well,
Though individually.
How long do you plan on hanging around for?
Well, I'll be 60 this year. I'll give it another 20.
Life, hope springs eternal, Bernard.
Well, you never know.
I mean, I know you do this incredibly healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, as long as I continue to drink Bali High, I think I'll be in good shape.
Are you being sponsored by Bali High?
They sent me a free case for Chinese New Year, so
I heard there was
I'm more than happy to give them airtime.
It's a nice beer, Bali High. I actually drink Anchor.
Anchor is good. When I first came here, you had more or less 4 choices. You had Bintang, Anchor, Heineken, and Guinness.
Right.
And
yes.
I've never liked it. Once you've drunk Guinness at St. James Gate, get to some chamos. Once you've had it in Dublin, nothing else compares. So I can't drink it out of a can. And Heineken, I've actually had Heineken at the brewery on the river in Amsterdam, and nothing else compares. And Bintang is basically just cheap Heineken. It's made by the same brewery. Anchor was pretty good.
I can't remember which way around it is. I think Bintang is Heineken and Anchor is Carlsberg, or vice versa.
That sounds right. Or Prost. Which one is Prost? There's actually several home brews now.
Well, that Stark beer is very nice.
Stark is good.
Yeah, that's made from wheat as opposed to barley or whatever is normally used.
Yeah, that's the most reasonably priced wheat beer you can get here.
That was one of down in Bali.
Yeah, that was one of the things that killed me when I first came here was the dearth of good beer. Not that there's a dearth of beer, but a dearth of good beer.
Well, it seems like there's a bit of a dearth of beer too in general. I mean, a lot of Indonesia's gone dry, hasn't it?
Well, when they came up with that law several years ago, where you can't sell beer at the stop, squat, and gobble.
Indomarts and Alphamarts. Yeah,
the little neighborhood stores, you can't buy it there anymore because I don't know, somebody will be tempted to sin or something. But once that happened, that just kind of killed the whole thing. Because the only place you can really get it now is, of course, now you can buy it online, thank God. But for a long time, you had to go to a grocery store or a hotel.
Prices, yeah.
Yeah, you had to go.
Because I know that you and I have similar political views in that we both dislike government legislation. That law that said you can't buy a beer infuriated me, and people couldn't understand. I said it doesn't even matter whether you drink beer or not. It's the idea of someone telling me that after doing 8 hours of hard work, I can't go to the local store, buy a beer and relax and chill out. You know, it's like, how dare you? Well, you might
Hmm.
become an alcoholic. It's my choice.
It's my liver, damn it.
Yeah. You remember
Well,
the
that's
great Charlie Georgie Best, one of the greatest footballers, who, when he retired from football, became an alcoholic. He had a liver transplant, and everybody thought, you know, he should be appreciative of this second opportunity in life. Continued
yeah.
drinking, had a second. I mean, how many people are privileged enough to have a second of a totally bankrupt? And when he was interviewed and asked, "What happened? What did you do with all your money?" Well, half of it I spent on gambling, women, and alcohol, and the other half I just wasted.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with them.
Yeah,
I've always been a firm believer in quality over quantity. So I would
absolutely.
much rather have fun and enjoy the quality of my life than worry about how much of it I'm going to get.
The Chinese amuse me is when they have their funerals and they chuck in all this paper money so they can take
Yeah,
it up to heaven. Like, come on, guys! In heaven, everything's free, isn't it?
yeah. Not in Chinese heaven, no.
No.
No. Well, I guess that's the Egyptian thing too about
Mm.
putting coins on the eyes to pay the ferryman
Well,
as
they
you
put
go
all sorts
across
of
the
shit
river
in there,
Styx.
didn't they? That was another one of those great conspiracy theories that the pyramids, of course, were built by aliens. We couldn't possibly have managed such a feat by ourselves.
I'm a firm believer that humans are extremely ingenious when they want to do something. The problem is getting them motivated. But
Actually, was war times are pretty good times for innovation. And you think about World War II, radar, another brilliant British invention, which we had already shared with you, but by Pearl Harbor, but you didn't really believe in it, did you?
no, but that's absolutely true. And another sign of TEOTWAWKI is we've got to have a war in order to innovate ourselves beyond where we are. We've kind of stagnated,
Yeah,
mostly
that'd be nice.
since mostly since World War II. Because I mean, computers, phones, everything, television, radar, all of this stuff came out in World War II. And since then, all we've been doing is rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. But
And to an extent from the Cold War as well. I mean that the race to the moon, the Russians, and you know when NASA was set up, the funding that NASA got, it couldn't happen nowadays.
yeah,
Because of course, what people don't remember is that 3 days before Armstrong reached the moon, the Soviets had orbited the moon. And
uh-huh.
in fact, that NASA was really concerned that there might be a collision between the two capsules or whatever. The Russian was unmanned, but the fact was that they were, you know, preparing to do their own moon landing. And out of that comes all the hand phone technology, this communications stuff, and miniaturized cameras was a offshoot from the Apollo missions. So yeah,
Well,
we need.
NASA crows about their rovers on Mars and what an amazing feat of robotics that is. But in fact, the Russians had what was it, 4 Lunokods,
What,
unmanned rovers on the moon that
what did the
were.
Japanese at the end of last year? They landed on a freaking asteroid, picked
Mm,
up samples, and came back. I mean, landing on an asteroid, that thing is shooting through space at God knows how fast. That's extraordinary.
yeah, that's yeah, and especially when you consider that that the gravity well around an asteroid is so minimal that the delicacy of the landing has to be just
Absolutely. They
absolutely
liken it
perfect.
to someone throwing a basketball from New York to LA and it lands in the hoop without even hitting the rim. The
Yes.
degree of precision, it's just
Well, and then it hits the ground and bounces up back through the rim again.
getting to the moon was easy. It was getting home. I watched the actual footage when they took off from the moon to come home. They had 17 seconds worth of fuel in which to launch from the moon and then meet with the Eagle or whatever it was that Michael Collins was occupying.
Uh-huh.
They were so lucky. The chances of coming home alive from that mission were less than 50-50. They must have been.
Yeah, well, I mean, those guys were trained for that kind of thing. The test pilots, every time they went up, they knew that they were never coming back, and if they got back, then it was just sheer dumb luck.
Underneath your picture, this thing says radiofarside.com. What's that a reference to?
My website.
On the screen in front of me, I can see radiofarside.com.
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, okay. Remember, who was the guy who did Farside? Larry Larson.
Oh, the Far Side comics, yeah.
Larson.
Well, mine is based on the fact that we're on the opposite side of the world from the Anglosphere, but well, most of it anyway.
Yeah. Well, America is almost 12 hours different, isn't it? Most of America.
Well, Central Time, my native time zone is exactly 12 hours. So it's almost 5 p.m. here. It's 5 a.m. there.
Easy enough to work out. Do you have the clocks? Do they go daylight saving time? Do you move the clocks every year?
Oh, that is the biggest nightmare in the world. If
Do you
Trump
do
was
that
real,
in the States?
if he was real, he would have ended that.
So you do have the clocks going forward and back.
Oh yeah, the spring forward, fall back.
That's right.
So, and then they few years ago, I forget who was it, Obama maybe, changed it so now it's earlier in the year and later in the years to make the sunlight last longer, so we use less electricity.
Oh well, there's a bit of logic to that, isn't there?
No, because it's the same amount of sunlight whether you have it in the morning or the evening. It doesn't matter. It's still the
same amount of sunlight given, but it's true to say that if you were to go to bed an hour earlier, you might.
The one thing that always made Tony
Blair asked the nation that before they go to bed, they unplug their television and their VCR recorders, because that little red light that stays on, if everybody in the nation unplugged, we would be able to save £1 billion from our annual electricity bill. Just that, when you turn off the TV, you've still got that little red light on the box there.
Yeah.
Yes, you unplugged our television.
Yeah, there's a trickle that goes in so that when you turn on the TV, it comes on instantly. Rather than the old days when I was a kid, you turn on the TV and go take a bath.
I was telling my students about in the old days, and when we're not that old, but having to stand up and go to the television and turn the button to change channels.
Yeah. What?
Yeah. These kids, the kids I'm teaching now, they've known internet since birth. They really, it's incredible. The exponential rate at which technology is. I mean, this pandemic 10 years ago would have been a disaster for education, but now we're all Zoom online, no problem. It's incredible.
Yeah, well, I've made a couple of shekels doing online classes. I don't like them though.
No, it's not like being.
No, when it comes to teaching, there's nothing like one-on-one presence, a warm human body in the room.
Well, and the other thing is, if you're teaching a class, more than one person speaks at the same time. You can't understand a bloody thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true too. That I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of what, like, internet meetings and internet classes. I find them annoying and not very productive. Um, especially like if you're talking to women online, they spend all the time looking in the camera and adjusting their makeup and their hair, and it's like, I don't care what you look like. Give me the information. I don't know. Of course, the internet is an amazing thing, and I do a lot of shopping online because it's ideal for male shoppers.
Is it?
Yeah, you know, women go shopping by walking into a mall and strolling until they see something they want to buy. I do male shopping where I know what I want. I go and look up the 10 best for 2021, read and compare all the features, and then figure out which one gives me what I want for the best price. And then I either order it, which is exactly what male shopping is, or I figure out where I can buy it closest to the house, and I go straight there, I buy it, and I come back. I don't dilly-dally and loiter around and browse.
Yeah. I have to confess, I've never purchased anything online except for food.
Except for what?
Food.
Huh.
Go food.
Even now with the
2 o'clock in the morning when you fancy a McDonald's, just click onto your app and have it delivered over.
God bless them. That's one thing I really like, is pretty much being able to get any kind of food I want delivered to the house. Because, you know, for how many thousands of years it was, pizza was about the only thing you could get delivered.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. I see some comments. Let me catch up here. We're
probably not too flattering, are they?
Easy, don't watch. What? Easy, don't watch. And hello from Austin, Texas. Hey, Austin.
Hey.
How y'all doing? Come on in and set a spell. Kick your shoes off. Don't forget to kick the shit off your shoes before you come in the house.
They don't talk like that in Austin. It's a civilized part of the Texas, isn't it?
Well, nowadays nobody talks like that unless you go out in deep Texas.
My father spent some time in Texas. I think is Fort Worth or Fort William in Texas?
Fort Worth, yeah,
William.
Certainly.
It's a military.
Fort Williams, I forget where that is. That's in Florida, I think.
Okay,
but
well,
Fort
he spent
Worth,
some time, and he was just saying everything in Texas is just ultra large scale.
Yes.
People are big, the food is big, the buildings are big, the roads are big, everything is just fucking huge. I think England fits into Texas 9 times or something ridiculous.
Well, you and I can conceive of Borneo because we know how big Borneo is, and Texas is larger than Borneo.
It's not, is it really? Borneo is like the 5th biggest island in the world.
Yeah, and it's bigger than that. Have you seen the claims of space base? I can't read that. Microwave laser.
This is going back to an earlier conversation about space.
Yeah, we missed that one. Sorry about that, but I've seen a lot about the Japanese wanting to build a ring of solar panels around the equator of the moon, and then beam the electricity back to Earth via microwave, which sounds like a really bad idea.
No, Ian McEwan's novel Solar is brilliant. I mean, we are constantly bombarded. It's just like rain 24 hours a day hitting the earth, free energy. We've got to be able to tap into it somehow. Big mirrors in space,
I
focusing
have
it
no
back.
problem with that. What I have a problem with is the precision aiming of a highly concentrated beam of microwaves to a specific point on Earth, with everything in motion and nothing ever moving off that target.
It's not
Because
that
if it
difficult.
does, it will.
You remember as a child with your magnifying glass burning ant?
It would be exactly like that.
I mean, you missed the ant a couple of times, but what the hell?
By the way, Koyaanisqatsi is a trilogy of films. Yeah, there's Koyaanisqatsi and I forget the name of the third one.
Fistful of dollars.
Yeah. Yes.
And a few
High
dollars
noon.
more.
A few dollars more.
The spaghetti westerns, they were good. I like those. I can't see the comments. Why can't I see the comments, Bernard?
I don't know. You should be able to somewhere on the screen.
I've got glass onions first.
3:58 in Austin now. God bless you for getting up at 4 in the freaking morning to listen to a couple of old geezers. In Indonesia, no less. But yeah, thank you for tuning in.
They're probably Muslim. He's probably got up to have his prayer.
Oh, this is Max. I can never get this name. Max Whittle or Max W. Lytle. Hi, Max. Thanks for joining in.
Well,
yeah.
It's a pity that we can't actually have people like talking and joining, like a radio call-in show or something.
Apparently, that's a future update. And if you use the free version of StreamYard, you're limited to 6 people online.
Oh, I see.
Chris never did join us, so we were going to have 4 people, but I don't know what happened to him.
Good job I'm here. I thought you'd be talking to yourself, Bernard.
I've done that too. The last one of these I did was just me for an hour, talking about civil disobedience.
I know. I've seen you do it before. You're famous for your 1 hour monologues.
Yes, I'm rather famous for them. But the thing is, I try to have an audience in front of me so it doesn't look like I'm crazy.
Oh, I wouldn't worry about that. Do you know the?
Well, no, you Limeys never worry about that. You just call them eccentrics. We call them nuts.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. They had this
that's the thing, in British culture, you guys value eccentrics. It's part of the English culture. Is like, oh, he's eccentric, and
also
that's a good thing.
Other thing, the old stiff upper lip thing. I mean, the rest of the world have all these terror threats and everything, and in Britain it was like, I can't remember now, but in France it was acute danger, and in England it was we're a bit peeved.
A bit peeved, yeah.
We're a bit peeved. This will interfere with our afternoon tea. We don't panic.
No, that's one thing about Brits is you guys never panic.
Absolutely not.
Texans don't panic. We just start shooting.
Well, I know this is. Someone asked me the other day. You know that I'm a keen hiker, and I'd been up on the foothills of Gunung Salak, and it started raining. When we got back to the car, I always take with me a change of clothes, but I was covered in mud, soaking wet. And my hiking partner, Jody, who's from Seattle, he just said, just go into the nearest house and ask to use their Mandy. So I did. I just knocked on the door. Permisi, bu, can I? And she welcomed me and, would you like to eat? Would you like to stay the night? And I was telling my students, I said, this is Indonesia. They're in the kampung, in the villages. I said, in Texas, if someone covered in mud comes up to the front door, they shoot you.
No, wait a minute.
In England, we call the police. In Indonesia, they offer you food.
No, the Yankees do that. Texans don't do that.
Oh, come on, isn't that the
No.
right to defend? What was the legal term? That right to defend or something. If someone
Self-defense, yeah.
no, if there's another term for it, someone walks onto your property, you have the legal right to shoot them, don't you?
No, there has to be an imminent threat. See, that's the thing. You guys blow this stuff up
imminent threat. Define imminent. There's a guy covered in mud on my property coming towards my door. I see an imminent threat.
Well, if he's armed, yeah.
Well, everybody in Texas apparently is armed, aren't they?
Well, that's true too. No, that's well, I mean, the real Texas culture is all about hospitality and
well,
you know,
yes,
the old Will Rogers line about never met a man I didn't like, which, you know, is you really have to think about the wisdom of that line because you know, he doesn't prejudge anybody. He likes everybody he meets and then gives them a chance.
well, I would think that that's a universal trait, but you're right. Texas is famous for its hospitality, but usually it's extended to the people that they feel comfortable and safe with. To be quite honest, Bernard, I mean, for a lot of people, America's a bit of a laughing stock. This right to bear arms, we don't have it in England and France and Germany, and we don't have the same awful high school mass murders and things like this. There's
you get stabbings on bridges, mass stabbings with swordfishes.
I'd rather have my kidney slashed rather than have a bullet put through it. But anyway,
I'm hard pressed to say which one I would prefer.
well, you're Texas born and bred, so of course you're going to lean towards favoring gun laws. But for a lot of people in where I come from, we find it very hard to understand why a citizen. I can understand the Wild West. You know, of course, you might be attacked by a cougar or a bear or an Indian or whatever. But this is not 1850, is it? It's like we've moved on. And for us, it is quite difficult to comprehend, get our heads around the gun laws in America.
Well, the thing is, I mean, you still have shootings in Britain, so you know,
not really, not on the scale, nothing like as much as in what's it, Chicago? There's like 5 people every week being gunned down.
Well, that's Chicago. Come on, that's not Texas.
I mean, that's just one city. But I mean, I also think it's also to do with the drug laws. Have you noticed how in Colorado, where they legalized marijuana, crime has gone down, tourism industry is booming because of the taxation of legal marijuana. The revenues for the state government have
gone up.
Holy shit, man! There's just no reasons not to legalize marijuana.
Well, that's because, you know, a guy gets stoned and he's sitting on the couch thinking, I need to go rob a store. And then he says, nah. And turns on the TV. Who's this Time Bell? Time Bell says, Maine,
M-A-I-N-E.
Maine is open carry, no casualties. Okay, so the state of Maine has open carry, and you never hear about mass shootings in Maine. You really don't hear a lot of mass shootings in Texas, because the minute somebody pulls out a gun in public to do something bad, everybody around them pulls out a gun and shoots the bastard.
Okay.
Crime in Texas is actually pretty low because, I mean, per capita based on the U.S., it's primarily in places like New York, Chicago, Miami, Los Angeles. It's in places where the Democrats have banned all guns. And, of course, you know, like we say in the U.S., when they outlaw guns, only outlaws will have guns. So... I mean, it's a good point. But in Texas, we're you know,
one doesn't really.
we're right on the border
Maine
with Mexico, and we've got all these drug lords and
hang on, Bernard. I
banditos and
want to
everything.
respond to the person who just left a comment. If I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken, I've only been to America once in my life for an hour. And I stopped over in an airport in Bangor. And if I'm not mistaken, Bangor is in Maine.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Bangor, Maine?
I think there's two of them, but yeah, one of them is Maine, Bangor, Maine.
My first wife was a flight attendant for Alitalia, and she was on standby. In the middle of the night, she got a phone call. We need to send a crew to Bangor to pick up stranded passengers. And Cinzia asked if I could accompany them. So I flew from Fiumicino to Bangor in Maine on an empty aircraft, apart from the cabin crew. Of course, I joined the 1 Mile High Club. We stopped in Bangor, bought some lobster, if I remember correctly, and then flew back to Italy with the passengers. I was in the days before the terrorism. I sat in the cockpit in the jump seat.
On the jump seat, yeah, the good old days.
Yeah.
When you could actually go in and look at the cockpit.
Absolutely. I sat there, and it was quite funny. He said, "Click, click, 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 click. If me and the co-pilot die, this thing will land itself." It was one of those fly-by-wire. But of course, when they come into land, they on their logbook, the pilots want to be able to register we landed the aircraft, so they turn all that stuff off and they do it manually. And it's amazing when you come into the airport. As a passenger, you can't see because the windows just afford you a view out. But when you're in the cockpit, you can see up and down. And the aeroplanes are stacking to come in, and they're like at 1,000 feet intervals, doing these circles of 8. And it's amazing. You look up in the sky and you just see like mosquitoes buzzing overhead, and then you come into land. It's pretty cool. Nice.
Yeah, it's really an amazing system when you think about it, and especially that it's like a global network of towers that the plane gets up and they hand off tower to tower and it tracks them across the continent. Of course, now they use satellites too, but the old system with just radio towers and VOR, that was an amazing system, and that's a lot of network theory.
John Cusack, I think it is. Tin Can.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, about
really,
the tower operators.
Yeah, it really illustrates. Oh, my God. I used to teach English at the airport. I was teaching tower control and all these people. And in the news the week before, there had been this near collision, a Garuda flight with an Air China flight. Of course, in air, a near collision is like they were a kilometer within passing distance of each other. And I went to teach this bunch, and I mentioned this. I said, I saw in the paper that there was a near collision last week. And they said, oh, it was him. He was responsible. And they took me into the place where they sit and work. And it looked like the Bionic Man, 1970s technology, flashing buttons and all this sort of stuff. And there was a guy sitting there playing Tetris on his computer screen. Shouldn't he be watching for the aeroplanes? It's changed a lot. I've been here 30 years. The changes have just been awesomely huge. And Indonesia was like the Wild West when I first came here. Lawless.
Well, and imagine the days, the barnstorming days, when guys would just go town to town and make money doing really just flying. In the days when nobody had ever seen an airplane, they would just go and charge people to show them a plane flying. Charles
Lindbergh almost ran for president because he became so famous on the back of his flying exploits. I listened very recently to a BBC podcast about the gold rush. That's fascinating, The amount of gold, apparently in 1 year, in 1852 or something, $600 million worth of gold entered the market. And it boosted, it didn't boost America, it boosted the global economy. It's incredible, the numbers of people that flocked to California at that time.
Yeah, Sutter's Mill in Colorado had their own, I forget
Mini
the famous
gold rushes.
spot. Yeah, Alaska had one.
Well, to a lesser extent, it still goes on today. I mean, you get people going up there prospecting. They do in Australia as well, out in the outback, looking for that tiny little nugget.
Well, I've seen it right here in Indonesia, but the only alluvial gold is in Papua. The rest of it is all greenstone, and they have like illegal mines up in northern Sulawesi, and these guys go in there and just haul out piles of rocks, and they have rows of oil drums full of cyanide. Is it cyanide or strychnine? Strychnine, maybe.
I thought it was mercury, wasn't it?
That comes in second, but the first part is strychnine, and you crush up the rock into powder, and then you put it in these drums and tumble it, and then at the bottom you get what's more or less copper and a little bit of silver and some gold. Yeah, and then you mix it with the mercury, and the mercury bonds with the gold, and then you take that and you have to blowtorch it to burn off the mercury. So you've got these guys working with strychnine with their bare hands, and then mercury vapors.
Land destroyed. I got this nugget of gold.
And then all of this, I mean, this whole operation for like an entire day, they'll get one little ball of gold about this big, maybe maybe 1 ounce of 75% gold. And then the whole thing, you got mercury vapors everywhere and strychnine all over the place, and the whole place is like a toxic waste dump. But I've seen it. I've been there.
That episode of The Simpsons, the nuclear waste, and the sort of very flippant way they just dismiss these fish with 5 heads and 6 eyes. You see these villages in Sulawesi, honestly, their children are born with multiple deformities. It's quite shocking. It's horrible. But got to get your gold.
Yeah, well, that's
gold has a few commercial uses. I mean, apparently all of our hand phones. It's a very good conductor of metal at low heat. So,
yeah, if you want to have fun, you can look up videos on YouTube about how to extract gold and silver from circuit boards.
From disused,
yeah. It's an amazingly complex process. Okay. But apparently, if you do enough of it, if you buy like truckloads of junk circuit boards, and you set up a big enough operation, you can actually make pretty good money at it. But if you're just doing all your old hand phones, forget it.
The scale, it's all about economies of scale, isn't it, mate?
You know absolutely. I mean? Everything is scale, baby. Everything. Well, I think we've already been going at it for an hour and a half.
Bernard, I could do another hour and a half until the beer runs out.
Well, the only problem is I got to go get another beer if that's the case.
Well, look, I mean, this is weird for me. It's the first time I've ever done anything like this. I wish we could interact more with some audience, you know. And the people who are listening, I can't imagine how dull and empty your lives must be in order to want to listen to these two old farts.
Well, at 5 freaking a.m., there can't be all that much to do anyway, so.
No, but anybody that's listening, thanks. I hope you've enjoyed our banter. And can we do this again, Bernard?
Sure. And next time, I'm hoping Chris will come back. He joined me on one about a month ago.
Isn't he? He's a Kanuk, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a Kanuk, and there's another guy, Kevin, that is in the U.S. He's a Filipino American.
I know Kevin.
Oh, of course you do. Yeah.
He's Hawaiian, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, his family is Filipino, but he spent many years in Hawaii. Then he was here for, I don't know,
Didn't
7, 8 years.
didn't his parents pass away from COVID?
Yeah,
If
4 or
it's the
5
same
months
COVID
ago.
I'm thinking of,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, it was
So
horrible. I mean,
he's just banging around the U.S. now and apparently having remarkable experiences. So I want to get him on.
all right. Well,
If
just let me
nothing
know.
else,
Yeah.
just sit and listen to him.
Yeah. Well, I've just enjoyed hanging out with you, basically, just shooting the breeze. Who was the character in Catch It in the Rye? What was his name? Michael Colden, was it? Catch It in the
Sounds
Rye, was
right.
it Michael
I
Colden?
haven't read that book in 40
Me
years.
too, but it had a huge impact on me. And that phrase, shooting the breeze,
Shooting the
comes up.
Breeze, yeah.
Yeah, Catch It in the Rye.
A number of times, yeah. It figures it prominently in MK Ultra conspiracy as well. Apparently, that phrase "shooting the breeze" is like a trigger phrase.
Ah, what does it trigger?
So obviously, you're not a victim of MK Ultra because you didn't twist off and start killing people when I said that. So.
No. Have you ever seen the movie Jacob's Ladder?
Another one I've seen years ago. I haven't watched it in a while.
I think that was one of those things where the Americans were experimenting in Vietnam with hallucinogenic drugs to give soldiers no fear and super strength and stuff.
Yeah, that was LSD testing, and there was a bunch of that stuff. That's Timothy Leary came out of that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Drop out, drop out, drop out. Whatever it was, his famous catchphrase.
Tune in, turn on, drop out.
Yeah, there we go. Which
Yes.
is pretty much what I'm about to do. But I have tuned in. I'm going to tune out and then I'm going to drop off.
Yeah, me too. It's been a long day already. And I still have more beer to drink.
What do you mean? I taught 4 hours this morning. Any of you listeners want to know what I do for a living? I'm a guru.
A guru. You're a fine guru at that.
I'm an educator. I taught 4 hours this morning.
Yeah, the only problem is you claim to teach English, but it's really just that British gibberish.
It's not really English. It's well, it is English, but it's
English
also,
sneezing.
we discussed La Deuxième Sexe today, the novel by Simone de Beauvoir and her relationship with Jean-Paul Sartre. And
your classes must be absolutely fascinating.
They're pretty cool, actually. I mean, these are university students.
Oh, that's why. Okay, so you're doing literature then,
yeah. And it's very rewarding, actually, because, oh, Mr. Justin, you're my inspiration. And it's like, okay. That's why I told you, Bernard, anybody who's still listening to this is very funny. There's one of my students who's very flirtatious, and my wife sometimes sits behind me and watches the lesson. And she hates this girl. And before the lesson finished, she made a few comments. Now, I take my teaching very seriously. When the lesson finished, I shouted at my wife, "How dare you ever interrupt me when I'm teaching?" And I insisted that she apologize. And I said to her foolishly, "I'm never going to eat again until you apologize. I haven't eaten anything since Thursday morning." I'm not kidding you. This is now 54 hours without food. Because she's not going to apologize. Hopefully she'll realize I'm worth more to her alive than dead. But
well, it depends on the amount of your life insurance.
But
is your wife Javanese?
She's Batawi.
Oh, Batawi. Oh my God.
Batawi,
yeah, you are in trouble.
yeah. There's, you know, the old expression, there's no word in Indonesian that conveys the urgency of mañana.
Yeah. Yes.
I'll repeat that. There's no word in Indonesia that conveys the urgency of mañana. Similarly,
exactly.
There is nothing in the stubbornness for Batawi women is It's limitless. She's not ever going to apologize and say, okay, I shouldn't have interrupted you. So
Well,
I might be dead before next week, Bernard. I might have starved to death.
Well, don't let that happen. You can come over here and top up,
Well, I
and
can drink, but
nobody will be the wiser. Well, you can do that too.
Well, I could have eaten. I mean, my wife wouldn't know, but I'm just absolutely dead set. I'm not going to eat again until.
Well, beer is bread with extra water.
It is. I get my calories. I'm allowed to drink. I drank some milk this morning.
So you may be stumbling around, but by God, you'll have your liquid bread.
Absolutely. Okay,
or as we say in Texas, lick it bread.
We're going to conclude this jungle rants. It has been a bit of a rant, really, hasn't it?
Well, that's really the purpose of it, is just get on here and see what happens.
Yeah, that's fun.
And I was hoping Chris would get on here because the three of us know enough about movies and literature.
Between us, we could nail everything.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it would be a fascinating conversation, even for me. I think the audience might be bored spitless, but
what audience, Bernard?
But hey, you get what you pay for, right?
Nothing.
Yeah, it's free, so
you pay nothing, you get nothing. All right.
I'm actually pretty amazed. It's 5:30 in the morning in Central U.S. and 5 people are diehards are actually here. God bless them.
How do they know about this? I don't get this whole cyber world. I don't know how anybody would ever hear about.
I put out notices on YouTube and then also on Twitter and Gab and a few other places. So I let people know and give them a link to it.
All right.
Oh, here's Chris.
What's he got to say?
I don't know. He sent me a link to something. Apparently, he's not coming to the show.
The show finished 32 minutes ago, Bernard.
I know. Yeah, we should let people get back to sleep. Or they probably already are.
Something productive. I mean, listen to us for 10 minutes and nod off. Yeah.
Robin Hood just raised $1 billion. Looks like their investors are backing them and
great
was not let in. So according to Chris, crisis avoided.
But Robin Hood is kind of like letting the ordinary man play the stock market. Isn't that the idea?
Well, the thing was, when they were launching that app, they ran short on cash and they had to go to the big boys. So obviously when this kind of thing came up, then the first thing that happened was that the big boys came and said, you will want to take care of this problem for us, won't you? So, it's kind of, I'm going to make you a deal you can't refuse. So the whole system is crooked. The only thing that's good about this is it fairly well shows it to anybody that had their doubts.
Can you read, Bernard? I know your eyesight's not very good. What does that say?
Are you overseas?
Our universe is thicker than blackberries. It's
one would hope so, yes.
It's a book on quantum physics. I love reading this shit because it's just mind-boggling. Anyway, I've read 3 works of fiction recently, so it's time to get back into some science.
Well, that's not bad. One of these days I'm going to try to read Hawking, except I know he's all full of shit, so it's hard to...
Hawking's not totally full of shit. I mean, I read...
Oh, yes, he is.
A long time ago. No, he's made a few discoveries about black holes. Come on, give him his credit.
Well, how can you discover anything about something that doesn't exist?
Yeah, right.
But that's a whole nother discussion. Well, I don't know. I guess a black hole could be considered TEOTWAWKI.
We used to have a joke about one of the girls at school. I can't remember her name now. It was something Alison. Alison. What was the difference between Alison and the Eiffel Tower? Not everybody's been up the Eiffel Tower. She was she was very loose and also known as the black hole.
I was to say, I just came home after my morning. I can't read anything. My morning run, and you guys are still going at it.
You couldn't run very far.
I don't know. In an hour and a half, you probably could have run 10 miles.
In the days when we could actually hang out in bars before this pandemic, me, Bernard, and a few other guys would play a game where someone would give the answer to a question, and then you would have to come up with the question. Charles Young, bless him, he's passed away recently from cancer, but he came up with the best one ever. The answer to the question was 9, and we were challenged to think of the question. The question was, is that Wagner with a W? 9!
9! See, we should have a whole session just telling jokes.
But Bernard, this is
you've got some great ones.
I thought this was going to give you a heart attack because you laughed until your head. I mean, you looked like a tomato. The answer to the question was cock robin.
I always look like that.
Do you remember the question? The answer was cock robin.
Cock robin.
What's that on my arse, Batman? Do it. He's not forgetting. I'm going to kill you.
Oh God, I'm getting colors.
Now, if anybody's got any good jokes along that line, we should definitely have them posted because it's quite. Salman Rushdie plays this game. Apparently, it's his favorite game. But he has another version where you mention a classic novel, and you have to come up with an alternative sort of cheesy title for it. And I watched a recording of this, and it was brilliant. I mean, the spontaneity of this man is incredible. And they said, well, what would you have called Hamlet? And he said, the Elsinore problem or something like that. Because they were taking the mickey out of Michael Crichton type Bourne Ultimatum and all these. The Elsinore dilemma.
Dilemma, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's
an interesting kind of thing.
Are we going to keep ranting? I don't care. I could get another beer and continue ranting, or you've got things to do, Bernard.
Well, I've got nothing to do. My wife just got home, actually, but that doesn't mean I have anything to do. The only thing I have to do is I have to walk about 3 meters that way to get another beer and then come back. So why don't you tell one of your great jokes and I'll be right back. I'll tell
a joke. All right, here I am, flying solo. Guy goes into the church, goes to the confession stall, and the priest slides open the door. What would you like to confess, my son? And the man says to him, Father, I had sex last night with 2 16-year-old girls at the same time. And there's an audible gasp from the priest. I've forgotten how it goes. The priest says, when was the last time you came to confession? And the man says, I've never been to confession before. I'm Jewish. So the priest says, well, why are you telling me? And the guy says, I'm telling everybody.
I'm bragging.
Did you hear that from the beginning, or did you take off your headsets, Bernard?
I took off the headset, but I know the joke.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, anyway.
Number 16!
There's another similar joke, a similar thing, a guy going to confession, and the priest slides open the door. What would you like to confess? And the guy says, well, I had sex last night with an unmarried woman. with a single woman. And the priest says, this is a small town in Ireland. So the priest recognizes the voice. Is that Seamus? Yes, Father. Now, Seamus, who was it you had sex with last night? And Seamus, well, I'd rather not say, Father. Was it Colleen? No, Father. No, no. Was it Megan? No, Father. Look, I'm not going to tell you. Now, come on. Was it Mary? No, Father. I'm not going to tell you. Okay, well, 7 Hail Marys and 6 Our Fathers. So Seamus leaves the confession and meets up with his buddy. And his friend says, so you confessed, what did you get? He said, I got 7 Hail Marys, 6 Our Fathers, and 3 very good leads.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good Irish joke there.
Your turn to amuse the punters. I'm off to get wet.
Well, I'm a lousy joke teller. I just give the numbers. I don't know. Here I am on the spot trying to tell a joke. This is the reason I never went into stand-up comedy, because I can't remember any jokes. And not the stand-up comedy is good if it's just memorized jokes. They got to have a pattern. But I always do well with scripts. I'm not a good extemporaneous speaker. Every joke I can think of has. I can't tell it on YouTube. Maybe I'll do a live stream on Rumble or something when they get it going. Which, by the way, you guys can find. Let's see, you got Rumble, Gab, Twitter, BitChute. What else? YouTube. I've got everything. If you look in the description of this video, you'll find a big long list of social media that are related to this insane bit of the world over here. The one thing about living in Indonesia is it's a very unusual culture. They don't have much of a sense of humor. Certainly not one that appreciates any kind of humor I can think of, like British humor especially, which is very dry and very. Indonesians, they don't have a sense of humor. No, they like goofy looks and pratfalls and
slapstick.
Yeah, they like slapstick, but they don't understand jokes, and Indonesian jokes are terrible. They're really lousy.
I know. They have no sense of irony. In fact, the Indonesian word for irony is ironis. The very fact they've had to adopt the English word indicates they had no concept of it before. They didn't have a word for it. There's no sense of irony.
No, satire, sarcasm, irony, none of that is native to Indonesian thinking.
No. They did have a show here called Republic Mabok, which means Mabok is drunk.
Drunk, yeah.
And they tried to do a few spoofs, ridiculing politicians and what have you. It was taken off the air.
Well, for one thing, you can't ridicule politicians here.
You see in Thailand recently, that woman who got 47 years in prison for insulting the king. They have the same thing here. It's illegal to say anything negative about the president. And they still have blasphemy laws here. If I stood up in the shopping mall and said Muhammad was a schizophrenic pedophile, boom, I'd be disappeared. I'd be sent to jail forever.
It would be at least a couple of years before I saw you again.
A couple of years, I think. Longer than that.
Well, that's what Ahok got for.
That's right.
Literally just quoting the Quran. I think he didn't give some.
Well, it was also edited. What the words he said were cleverly edited and then reposted on YouTube to make it sound like he had blasphemed. But he was quoting directly from the Al Quran a passage that says, Muslim communities can be governed by Christians or non-Muslims, provided that whatever the stipulations were, I forget, taken totally out of context, manipulated, and then of course what did he do? 2 years in prison?
Yeah, a full 2 years. Yeah, just for an a
What made you?
videotape quote that was edited specifically in order to make him look bad. And then they
Yeah.
manufactured the charges out of that.
What was
Yeah,
so
that was
tragic? What was so tragic? I mean, my wife is a Betawi. For those of you who don't know, Betawi is the indigenous people of Jakarta, and she's Muslim. My wife is Muslim. Ahok was Christian, Chinese, Indonesian.
Chinese Christian, yeah.
The best governor we've ever had.
Hands
And
down.
countries, Brazil, India, were looking to Indonesia for the first time ever. I felt proud. People are looking to us for solutions. How did he do this? How has he managed to get rid of this bureaucracy, reduce the amount of corruption, the transparency that's now? And what did we do? We had him up on charges of blasphemy and slung in prison, purely because the Muslim population, the fanatics, the hardliners, couldn't tolerate having a Christian as their governor. And I have people here in Indonesia telling me, in London, the mayor of London, Shitkikker, you see, this is further evidence that Islam is taking over the world. And I said, don't be stupid. In England, we don't give a shit about what religion you are. We care about whether you're competent or not. And Shitkikker, he's a lawyer. He's second generation Pakistani family and a brilliant guy and a very nice guy. And he was voted for by people with rational choices, not based on their religious persuasions. So there you go.
Yeah, that's one of the most interesting parts of Indonesian culture is this dynamic among the religions here. It's really bizarre because when I first came here, I wasn't used to the fact of, the first three questions out of somebody's mouth is, what's your name, where do you come from, and what's your religion?
Mm-mm.
That's the first three things anybody asks you when they meet you. And, to me, being from the U.S., you just don't talk about religion, especially in Texas where everybody's armed. It's like the classic George Carlin joke. Do you believe in God? No. Bang. Do you believe in God? Yes. Do you believe in my God? No. Bang.
There's a lovely similar sort of thing in the Irish problem. The Irish problem. This guy crossing the border from Northern Ireland into Southern Ireland, and some guys jump out, stop his car, force him to wind down the window and hold a gun to himself. Are you Protestant or Catholic? He says, well, I'm atheist. All right, then, well, are you a Protestant atheist or a Catholic?
And that is truly an Irish joke.
Yeah.
Although it's not so much a joke, really. It's more relating an actual experience.
I was very moved. Well, my wife, as I just said, is Muslim, and my children, I have twin boys, were supposed to do the puasa, the fasting during Ramadan month. Mm-hmm. And my son didn't fast. He was about 8 years old at the time. And I said, I thought you were going to fast to make mummy happy. He said, no, Daddy. I've decided that religion divides people. And I thought about that for a moment. And I thought about the schools where I teach. They are either Muslim schools or Christian schools. And it's very divisive.
Yeah.
But
or the
interesting that an 8-year-old came to this conclusion by himself,
That's really interesting. One of the high schools I taught in, on Friday, I think it was, or one day a week, they had religious courses, and the whole school was split up. You had the Muslim wing over here, the Buddhists over here, the Hindus over here, the Christians over here, and it was just bizarre. And then the morning prayer was, one morning would be a Buddhist prayer, the next morning a Christian prayer, the next, and it was just.
Have you ever seen Rowan Atkinson is most famous for Mr. Bean, but he did an awful lot of comedy before that, Not the 9 O'Clock News and Thin Blue Line.
His stand-ups are amazing.
His stand-up was great. There's that one where he's playing the devil. And
yes, Toby.
Okay, now those of you who are down here in hell for adultery, down that corridor over there. Those of you who are here because you're atheists, and I bet you feel real Charlies right now.
Yeah. Yes, and what was the adultery? They had to line up at the male adulterers had to line up at the miniature guillotine. Go stand in line by that, or queue up by the miniature guillotine.
That's right. Yeah.
Christians over here, I'm afraid the Jews were right.
Yeah. And don't be noisy when you pass room number 8, because that's the Jehovah's Witness. They think they're the only ones here. But that was it. Wasn't that heaven?
Yes. That's the heaven joke.
Oh, well, there's a nice joke, Bernard. I don't know if you've heard this one about the Indonesian bus driver and the Indonesian priest who both died on the same day and ascended to heaven. And when they got there, the gates of pearly were not yet opened. So there's a little queue. And at the front of the queue is the priest. And about fourth back in the queue is the Indonesian bus driver. St. Peter comes out, opens the gates, and immediately points to the bus driver. Right, you, in you come. Now, the priest at the front of the queue is a bit indignant about this. He says, "Excuse me, Peter, I'm first in line. Plus, I'm a priest. I've been preaching Christianity all my life." Peter replies, "Yeah, but when you're preaching, everybody falls asleep. When this guy drives his bus, they're all fucking..." If anybody wants to know what true terror means, take the Trans-Sumatran Highway in the middle of the night. You have no public transportation at all. There are no private cars. It's trucks and buses. And they have these headlights, and they just heading towards each other. And the last one, it is, terrifying.
Well, even right here on the road to Puncak, you got those hairpin turns, and those huge buses just go barreling down that road, and you come around the bend, and this guy's trying to pass a vegetable truck, and there's nowhere to pull over.
Weren't you always taught as a young kid, you're learning to drive, never overtake on a blind corner? But this hairpin bends, the buses, they can't see what's around the corner. They're fucking cutting the lanes. Yeah, and as you say, there's the guy in the middle of the street pushing his vegetable cart.
Yeah. Oh, that's the thing, any Westerners listening to this, Indonesia is a bizarre place. When I first came here, I had bruises on my mouth from being gobsmacked all the time. Now it only happens like once a week, and that took 13 years to get to this point.
I'm still constantly surprised by it.
Yeah. I still see things.
I was at a traffic lights before Christmas. It was a couple of months ago. And in front of me was one of those tanks, not a military tank, a tank. They call it here tanky. What do they call those? That deliver petrol, that deliver gas to the gas stations. One of those long trucks full of benzene. And some boy was siphoning off petrol from the truck. The light turned green, the truck pulled away, and this boy's running, trying to fucking switch the thing. And I thought, Jesus Christ. As you say, it's completely mad living here.
One of the most vivid things that I've seen since I've been here was when I was living in Kalimantan. I saw a whole family go by on one of these little putt-putt motorcycles.
6
and
people.
It was 2 kids standing on the running board, Papa was driving. Mom was on the back. She was holding a baby, and she was pregnant. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people on a single putt-putt motorcycle.
Didn't they have a couple of chickens hanging off the handlebars?
Now, wait a minute. I got another story about that. We were driving down the road here in Jakarta, and I saw up ahead of this motorcycle that on the back were these things going like this. I thought they were like streamers, but they were almost mechanical. I thought, well, that's kind of a cool decoration. And not too far along, we came to a stoplight and pulled up next to it. And this guy had like 8 geese tied on the back of his motorcycle with their heads sticking out the back. And the heads are all just going up and down like this. It was like, what?
I know. They don't really have a concept here of animal rights, do they?
No. PETA would have heart attacks here.
Mind you, I have to say, I think in the West we're coming a little bit soft sometimes. Health and safety, all these rights issues and so on. The reason why Asian nations are going to overtake us is because they don't give a shit about how a chicken feels.
Well, and quite frankly, chickens don't have a brain big enough to feel anything.
Well, they might not. Apparently, this is birds, because my wife has a couple of kutilang, the birds in a cage, and I don't really like it. I always think that birds should be free to fly around, but birds, this is fact, do not have a notion of boredom. Birds, chickens, they cannot feel boredom. They don't know what boredom means. You feed them and they're happy as shit, you know. And then the rest of the time, they got water, they wash themselves, and they'll sit there on the perch, make a few noises to each other and sleep. And yeah,
and they're perfectly happy. Yeah. And being a Texas boy, I know chickens will drown in the rain. And what happens is they feel the drops coming down, and they look up to see what it is with their mouths open, and their mouths fill up with water, and they literally drowned in the rain.
Do you think I'm going to fall for that one?
Dude, I have seen it. We had to go out and put all the chickens in the barn every time it rained because, by God, at least 1 or 2 of them would drown if it was a heavy rain. That is true. That is a true story.
Well, Bernard, I'm going to remain skeptical about that. I have also grown up with chickens. We had lots of chickens. Well, bantams, actually. But,
you had fighting roosters.
We didn't have I can't remember ever seeing one looking up at the raindrops and swallowing rain until they drowned. But anyway, it could well be true. Texans, the raindrops are probably bigger.
Well, that's true too. Yeah.
Everything in Texas is bigger, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What was it? There was a famous story several years ago about the governors of Texas and Alaska bragging about who was bigger. And what was it? The governor of Alaska sent an embedded mosquito, one of their giant mosquitoes from Alaska. Sent that in a. Huh?
Embedded? What do you mean embedded?
Well, embedded in a piece of acrylic, so like a preserved thing. Mm-hmm. So he sent this mosquito. It was like this big, and the governor of Texas, I forget what it was he picked up. It was some big flying insect, and he sent it back and said, "This is a Texas mosquito," and it was like 4 times the size. Yeah. And people believe that stuff. It's true.
Hey, here's a good general knowledge question for those of you who like a good pub quiz. Biggest city in America. What is it?
Biggest city in America.
Don't tell me, Bernard, we've got our 4th comment.
Another one? No, actually, Chris said he was trying to log in, but I never saw him.
I should come over to your place, which I should co-host it with you so that I can fucking read some of them.
That would be interesting.
Come on. Biggest city in America is, if I'm not much mistaken, Juneau. Alaska. Not by population, of course, but by area. Does that make sense, Bernard?
In terms of area?
Yeah, Juneau in Alaska, like the voting parameters or whatever,
Huh.
massive. I mean, Alaska's a huge place, but sparsely populated. I think the biggest city is it Los Angeles, the most densely populated, the population-wise?
Densely populated would probably be New York or
No,
Philadelphia.
no, I didn't mean densely. I mean in terms of population. Is it New York?
Probably, I think Los Angeles is number one. Is New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, and Houston are the top four. But which order they're in, I don't know. It changes every few years.
Houston, I'm surprised. I know. Well, Austin is the capital of Texas.
Of the
isn't
great Republic of Texas. Texas.
You wish.
Hey, they've already introduced legislation. You never know.
You know, there's a lot of stuff that goes on, like the Black Lives Matters and issues like this. The desire to tear down statues of, you know, that have been there for a long time, of people that today, of course, their actions would be reprehensible. But
Yeah.
in the context of the day, they were eminent people. They were. So I don't know. We had a thing in England, Bristol. There was a statue that was ripped down and tossed into the river. And I thought, no, this is a shame, really. I mean, it's a monument to history, and you know, we've moved on. It doesn't, because we've still got that statue, doesn't mean we condone the behaviour of what they did. I don't know.
Well, even the guys that lose, you know, are worthy of respect in many cases. I think of the in Greece, there's a famous statue called I think it's the Crying Celt, or I forget the exact name of it. But, the Celts, I don't know if you're familiar with their style of attack, but they would like encamp around whoever they were going to attack and build these giant bonfires and get roaring drunk and paint themselves blue. And then as soon as the dawn broke, they would go charging at you, just wild-eyed and completely out of their minds. And these Greeks, was Thessalonians? I forget where it was. But they won the war, but they were so damned impressed at the way these Celts were fighting that they built a statue to them, and it's a Celt sitting on a rock, kind of slumped over like this. Yeah, but it's one of those things, you know, and this statue is thousands of years old, but it's a monument of respect to the vanquished. Yeah, so it, you know, but Americans have no appreciation of history because they have none. Whatever history they have, they've imported, and now it's all a mishmash of so many different cultures and things. So and people forget that, like, the Confederacy was created by the Democrat Party. The KKK was the Democrat Party. The Jim Crow laws was all Democrats. You know, so the Democrats are. Yes.
Well,
you look it up.
But the Democrat Party of today is different from. That's exactly my point, Bernard. About the statues.
Everybody always says it, and yet when I was growing up, we had George Wallace, who was an independent, but he was, you know, a Southern Democrat. And just as racist as you can imagine. LBJ, one of the racist bastards you'll ever want to meet. Who else? I mean, all those guys.
Democrat, wasn't he?
Oh, yes, he was Democrat.
Yeah. I saw a good movie about LBJ, and the actor was that guy, Woody.
The one with Randy Quaid?
No, Woody somebody. I think he played in Cheers.
Woody Harrelson?
Is it? But it was quite an impressive piece of acting. You know how actors get stereotyped, and I'm always impressed when they actually break that mold. I hadn't really had a lot of time for Leonardo DiCaprio until he played in Blood Money. I think it was the title of the movie, Blood Diamonds or something. It was about diamond smuggling in Angola, and he had taught himself to speak in a South African accent. And it's a brilliant piece of acting. The same as Brad Pitt. If you ever saw the movie Snatch, the guy reaching a fight and he plays this gypsy character. Fantastic. So
the one that Brad Pitt did that impressed me the most was 12 Monkeys, where he played that
insane
manic lunatic.
Yeah.
And he was brilliant. I mean, it was absolutely a brilliant performance. I was
not
deeply
just a
impressed.
Pretty face.
Yeah, he might be a pretty face, but he definitely has. There is some talent there. He has abilities.
Now I'm kind of a bit depressed at the moment with the number of my Indonesian younger friends who are besmitten with K-pop culture. I said, what do you like about it? They're talentless. They're not totally void of talent. They can dance, but it's so factory produced. Do you know what I mean? It's like in the West, we have originality and talent coming out and doing their own things. This K-pop thing is just mass produced. The looks, the pretty, and cosmetic kind of look to it, and it's taking over. The girls here are absolutely smitten by these guys, and I said, can't you see through this marketing and actually analyze and judge their talent rather than what they look like? I think in the West we're guilty of the same thing. That not so much in Britain. If you ever watch stuff in England, we don't choose actors on their beauty, but on their merit. Whereas it's very rare to see ugly people getting good roles in films in America. They're always stunningly beautiful. Yeah.
No, but you guys have guys like Leo McKern that just proves that if you got talent and not looks, you can still make it.
Who's he? Leo
McKern. He was the guy that played years ago when I was living in London. There was a television show about a detective, something of the Bailey.
Yes, of the Bailey. Oh God, I know exactly what you mean. Yes.
Yeah, and he played the detective in that show, and he was brilliant. He's one of my favorite actors. Very, very classic acting. I have Mrs. Farside here. What's up, babe? What, Malu? Kenapa? Say hi to Justin, yeah.
Oh, Justin! Oh my God!
It's only me.
It's only me.
Hi.
Thank you for the pork.
Say hello, world.
Finally.
As you know, Bernard's wife is Chinese Christian Indonesian, so she eats pork. My wife is Muslim. I never get to eat pork. So Bernard's wife smuggled me some pork last week. Yeah, babi.
Oh, and good pork too, not your no quality stuff. We're talking.
Jangan bilang siapa-siapa, ayo.
Yeah, high quality pig.
From NTT.
Yeah, that the one that you tried, that was from NTT. So that's yeah, that's the good stuff.
The real deal.
And it is tasty, man. That was some good stuff.
Except
that was that was the first time I've been out in almost a year now with
I know, wasn't that fun?
With all this ridiculous lockdown crap. And it was great to get out and have a couple of buckets of brew and eat some pork and hang out.
What is it? The show you're thinking of is Rumpole.
Rumpole of the
Rumpole.
Bailey. That was a great show. If anybody, oh, look at that. Oh, nice. Well done.
Well, it's something called the internet. Well, you're much more conversant with that. Yeah, I know.
Well,
Isn't it horrible? But what is it in America? Apparently, 40% of Americans don't want to take a vaccine. What's with you guys? I mean, for fuck's sakes, really? Is it 70? Go on.
Okay, my thing is that of all the hospitalizations in the world from this imaginary virus, none of them had blood levels of vitamin D3 lower than 47.
Doesn't matter,
So,
Bernard. This is not imaginary. Over 500,000 Americans have died from COVID.
Motorcycle accidents, heart attacks, just happen to have.
In addition to that, I mean, I think you're very glib and very dismissive. It's a real virus.
Well, the common cold has been around for centuries. Everybody has the common cold.
Stop comparing apples with pears. This is
a coronavirus.
It's coronavirus, yes, and it's killing people. And I can't believe, well, the response from Donald Trump, we all saw that. Oh, just drink some disinfectant or inject yourself with his.
Oh, come on now. You don't believe what you saw in the media. If you watched that entire press conference, all right, he did not say that. He said something like,
all
right, because we know that bleach.
You're sounding like Trump himself when he says, I did not say the Mexicans would pay for the war. Rewind, here's the clip.
Oh, well, come on, I know that.
I mean, exactly the same. I do think
but the thing is like they made fun of him for UV light.
It's not Trump's
all right, but I know
it's the people. I don't understand why Americans say wearing a mask is an affront to my liberty. Isn't it just sensible? If it doesn't protect you 100%, it reduces the possibility of getting it and spreading it. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you just? It doesn't mean anything. So what? Wear a mask. What the fuck?
The virus is 0.125 microns wide. The smallest hole in the best possible mask you can buy is 0.357 microns, which means that 3 viruses can pass through every hole in a mask. And not only that,
it doesn't guarantee protection. It does, Bernard. It does reduce the chances. All I'm saying is it doesn't cost anything. It doesn't to wear a mask. It's not like you're giving up your personal liberty or freedom. What?
Well, if I'm being told I have to wear one, then yes, I am giving up my personal liberty. If I choose to wear one, that's my choice.
Yeah.
If I choose to have an abortion, that's my choice. It's my body.
Well, Bernard, I don't think you're likely to ever need an abortion unless you've kept something secret from me.
I don't know. I'm starting to look like I'm around 6 months here. Twins, too.
Oh, God.
That's the thing about this lockdown, man, is I'm gaining weight like a...
When my wife was pregnant with our twin boys, we went for our first USG scan, and the doctor's got the TV screen up there. And, his first words when he did the scan was, oh, look, there are 2 heads. And my reaction was, fuck, I've got a freak. I actually said to his name, Dr. Hardy, I said, Hardy, next time you break the news to a parent that they've got twins, don't say they've got, there are 2 heads.
2 heads. Yeah, don't do that to them. God bless it. Yeah, I can imagine your heart just fell through your feet at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be freaky. But then it could have been too that he was extra endowed. He had 2 heads.
No, because we went there, we counted 20 fingers, 20
okay.
toes. Although, quite frankly, how they managed to interpret those black and white screens of this thing squirming around.
I
Oh,
never
look,
have figured
it's a
that
boy.
out.
I can see the penis. I said, where? I can't see the.
Yeah. Yeah, the one I really loved was when I had my liver abscess, when I had the damn amoebas. And, he was doing an ultrasound on my liver, and he found a little nest of the bastards. And they had to go in and drain it out. And he took this needle out that was like this long. And he stuck it in there, holding the ultrasound wand and trying to find the hole. And then he says, "Oh, this is too small. You're a bule. You're not Indonesian." So he comes out with a longer needle, shoves it in there, and he's poking around. Oh no, that one's too short too. Comes out with a third needle. This thing is like this, and shoves that in there, and it's like, I found it, and all this stuff comes out of that hole, and it's just like, oh my god. Ugh.
I remember you had amoebic dysentery at the same time, didn't you?
I had dengue, typhus, and amoebic dysentery all in 6 weeks.
Well, that'll teach you. That'll teach you to go up the fucking Borneo without any.
Yeah, but of course, my opinion now is, screw it. I don't need a mask. I don't need vaccines. If I can survive that, I can do anything.
But I think the statistics speak for themselves. I mean, it is pretty shocking. What are the deaths in America? Has it reached 1 million deaths? I think it did.
No, they've had a million cases, but the case numbers are complete rubbish. They're basing it on those PCR tests. The PCR tests, if you run them at 40 cycles or higher, have a 90% error rate. And what they're doing, those tests were invented. They can't tell one virus from another. What they're invented for is like at a crime scene where you're picking up microscopic bits of evidence, and you've got just the barest piece of DNA, and it will amplify it so you have something you can actually test. Because you can't test a tiny little fragment of DNA. So what it's designed to do is to pick up little pieces of DNA, or RNA in this case, and then through cycling it doubles and doubles and doubles and doubles, and then you end up with a sample that you can actually run through a test and check it. But when they sit there and they just swab your nose and stick it in the machine for 10 minutes and then tell you you're positive, bullshit. Even the guy that invented the test said it's bullshit.
John Hopkins doesn't lie. Well, why would they?
Sure they do. New England Journal of Medicine had to retract 2 papers.
450,000 deaths, almost 500,000. 26 million cases. Don't call COVID fictional. Mind you, talking of conspiracy theories, as we were earlier, there's a lot of the Americans sent over a wrestling team to I don't know. I tend not to be quite as skeptical as you are.
But how many people have die every year from flu?
Yeah, and in addition to that,
if you look at the statistics, the flu has gone down over the past year while COVID has gone up.
Common flu does kill, maybe 20,000 people a year in America?
50,000 a year in America.
You just pulled that figure out of your imagination.
No, that's from the CDC website. That's actual death is 50,000 a year.
The most reliable source of information that I don't know what is CDC.
Well, Centers for Disease Control.
Yes.
Supposedly one of the most trustworthy organizations.
No, I would trust them. You've got to have some faith in some of these institutions.
None of it. I have no faith in any of it.
No. I mean, I always take a skeptical view. I always challenge and question everything. including this offer I've got on my handphone here. You've just won 20 million rupiah. Click here. No.
Yeah, click
Well,
over. You never know. You never
ignore it.
know.
Oh shit, man! Have you ever been hacked? I got an email from Thomas. You know Thomas, and
Mm-hmm.
it was one of these things at the beginning of the COVID virus when everybody was like trying to be charitable and so on. Dunkin' Donut are giving away 12 donuts and whatever. All you have to do to qualify for this voucher is pass on this message to 5 other people. And I'm so, because I never fall for that shit, you know. I passed it on. And then the next day, my handphone, all the numbers disappeared and my handphone had been hacked. I'm quite convinced of it. So,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, I don't pay any attention to those things.
Hey, Bernard, have we got any listeners? Have we got any viewers?
Have what?
Have we got any viewers? Anybody listening to our bullshit?
We still got 2 people. They're probably asleep at this point.
No, come on. They should be waking up by now.
Well, we haven't had a comment in a while, so I think they're
Bernard,
snoozing.
it's just like you and me down at La Vière.
Yeah.
Look, I'm going to go out. I'm going to go and buy a few beers before the local agent closes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I think
Yeah, I
we
think we
wrap this.
should. 2.5 hours is enough. I think we've thoroughly abused this audience.
We've covered everything that needs to be discussed: football, politics.
We've been through all of it, and it's
what
all
we've covered.
coming to an end. It's the end of the world as we know it.
Let's do the same thing next Saturday. We'll rehash it for the people who are unfortunate not to have caught this broadcast. Yeah.
Well, maybe I can get Chris in. He said he tried to click in twice, but I never saw him pop up. So
Okay. Well, I'm up. I love it. I just like talking to you anyway.
Well, that's true. I enjoy that myself. But
All
I think three people with rather good knowledge of culture, literature, things like that, arguing about COVID viruses, I think is at least interesting to some people. At least 3 people. Thanks, guys. You're great.
Button here that says leave studio. Is that what I should click now?
If what?
It says leave
well,
studio.
yeah, the button says leave the studio.
I think I'm going to click that one now, okay?
All right, man. Good to talk to you.
Have a good session. Thanks. That was great fun. Thank you.
All right, next time.
All right. Cheers, man.
Cheers. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging in there. I see there are 3 of you still half asleep. Anyway, that one went a little long, but it was fun. And every now and then you just got to laugh at this crap. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for the comments, you guys. Time Bell, especially. Who else do we have? We had Max. Max, thank you for the comments. We had Maine and Texas at any rate. But much appreciated. And we'll bring this back again. This one is a little bit looser than I'd planned, but what the hell? Every now and then you just got to laugh. So have a great evening, great morning, wherever you are. And we'll all talk soon. Take care. Thank you. And where's the damn button? There it is. Bye-bye.